Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Puddles and today we have another encounter building episode. Today we're going to be talking about some pacing. It's going to be a few videos on this because I think it's very important to make sure that your pacing in combat is efficient and not boring your players. A lot of the times when people or players are talking about how boring combat is, it's because they're waiting forever for their turn and they don't get to do anything. And with these three simple and easy things that you think about, we can change that and make it better. So, let's talk about planning your encounter and thinking about the pacing of the fight. To do this, let's look at my handy little list here. So, one thing to think about is players only get one turn each round of combat. You, as the DM, get many turns. So a lot of the time when you're doing all of these things and like you've got a lot of things on the plate that you have to think about at the same time. So it's exciting and interesting for you. The players are a lot of the time just sitting waiting for their turn. So if it's taking a long time to get through a whole round of combat, they're going to get bored. They're going to hate combat essentially. So what we need to do is to make it exciting, speed things up a little bit and get back to their turn as quickly as we can, whilst not like just running through everything. You also want the combat to be exciting. Basically, the goal is to have what you're doing is efficient and fast, but also exciting. So the best way that we can do that is to not have too many things going on. You want multiple enemies, but you don't want hordes. You don't want so many enemies that it's going to take half an hour for your players to get their turn again. You want, if you have legendary actions and lair actions, you need to think about these things before you create your combat. Because if you've got, 10 creatures and then one of them has legendary actions and there's lair actions that go twice every round, those add up in terms of when your player gets to go again. So it's about thinking about the actions of each turn and how long it's going to take the round to complete before it gets back to your players. So a good sort of way to think about it, and this isn't like a blanket rule on every encounter, but if you have 15 things happening before it's your player's turn, that's probably the maximum I would have. So if you've got and I'm talking about other players as well. So if you have 5 players, then you've got 4 other players who are doing their actions. If you have 10 extra creatures having actions, that's probably the maximum I would have. Or 8 creatures with a lair action that happens twice. Or 8 creatures and 2 of them have legendary actions. Basically, you want to count how many turns it is until your player gets their go. And even 15 is kind of pushing it towards the long side of combat. What I usually like to do is aim for about double the number of player characters. So if there are 5 player characters, I want like 10, 11, 12 turns each round of combat. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples of what I mean by this. Because it might not exactly be clear by me talking about it. And then we'll go through and you'll see how a big encounter can really drag things down. So I have 2 encounters here. The top one is a level 5 deadly encounter. It's a bandit encounter. We have a bandit captain, 8 bandits, 2 thugs, 4 scouts, and 4 acolytes. Because we want some ranged guys in the back, we want some thugs in the front soaking some damage, and we want some mages in there. So this is a bad encounter just from action economy perspective, because your creatures outnumber your players a lot. And also these creatures are level 5, so one fireball could kill a lot of these players. So this is just a bad encounter in terms of that. But if we were to play out this encounter, let's count how many things there are. So if this dwarf cleric, let's separate him. So he goes at the top of the order. If he's the first one to go, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4 allies that have their turn before him, and then he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 So he has 19 enemies and 4 allies. That's 23 creatures that get to go before his turn. Now, that's a lot, and that will take a decent amount of time for the players to figure out what they're doing and you to figure out what you're doing with all of these creatures. So this dwarf cleric here, he might be sitting there for, 5 to 10 minutes before he gets to do anything on his turn. So the best and easiest thing to do to improve the pacing of your combat is to have less actions or less things going on. Let's have a look at our second encounter. So we have another encounter with bandits, but we've swapped out some of the creatures for higher CR ones, so there's not as many of them. Both of these are level 5 deadly encounters that are bandit encounters. But instead of 8 bandits, I just have the 2 thugs. And I know I had 2 thugs in the other one, but now we've got 2 priests as well instead of the acolytes. They're higher level, they have higher level spells, they can do more. We have archers instead of the scouts. And we have a veteran here as the big bad boss guy instead of a bandit captain. Now this is a much nicer combat for you to manage as well. You've got less things to think about, and your players are going to have... Oh, I think I've moved some of them out of the way. So say our dwarf cleric is over here. He's only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There are 12 actions that happen before his turn. That's much more manageable. And once they kill a couple of creatures, it's going to go... it'll be even quicker. So the point of this video is to think about how big your combat is going to be. Before we think about rushing your players or doing your actions quickly or anything like that, the easiest way to determine the pace of the combat is to just have less stuff going on. And I think that's pretty much it with this. It's the first. I'm going to make 2 more videos about pacing. But yeah, if you do this, you will have much, much nicer, smoother, less dragged out encounters. And your players will thank you for it because they will get to have a go every couple of minutes instead of every 10. Thank you for watching. I hope this has been helpful. And thanks again.